Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this end of year summit for the National High School Ethics Bowl 2020. I'm Sarah Stroud. I'm the director of the Parr Center for Ethics at UNC Chapel Hill. And we are very proud to be the co-founder, the producer, the HQ, the host, the forever home of the National High School Ethics Bowl and its associated content, procedures, and drama. I have to say, from the perspective of the Parr Center, the rhythm of the year for us is really set by the National High School Ethics Bowl. So in summertime, early fall, we're working to produce those wonderful cases that thousands of young people across the country are going to be studying. So we're thinking of them, writing them up, revising them, editing them, discussing them, coming up with the study questions. It is thoroughly enjoyable, although it's a big job, and it's one that the whole Parr Center contributes to. And then as soon as we get over that hump, we need to be on notice to be ready to help any regional organizers, any schools, coaches, anyone out there out of the thousands of people following the program who have questions or want to check in with us. Then we start switching into a mode where we're getting ready for our own regional. So early in the winter, it's time for us to host an actual event, and we switch gears for that. Once that's over, we get into the playoffs to determine who can go to nationals, and then it is all hands on deck to get ready for the national competition, which we host every year on our campus at Chapel Hill, and it's the highlight of the year for the Parr Center. So let me thank everyone for coming. Obviously, we're very disappointed at the Parr Center, and you might be too, that circumstances didn't allow us to actually host the national competition this year. But we've done what we can to keep the activity going online, as the rest of our lives have moved online. So has the NHSEB. So we're really happy to see you tonight. I'm really looking forward to hearing from different people in the National High School Ethics Bowl ecosystem. As I mentioned, we're HQ, but really what gives the program its vibrancy and its energy is all of you who are participating across the country, whether as students, as coaches, as regional tournament organizers, as members of our board of advisors that we look to help us strategize about the present and future of the National High School Ethics Bowl. So I'm really pleased to get maybe even a better cross-section of that ecosystem than we get just from seeing the national teams. That's the saving grace from our online summit, is that we're actually going to get to exchange with a broader variety of people. So once again, just welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for coming. I'm really looking forward to this. And while there are a lot of people to thank, I'm going to content myself with just thanking and saluting and handing the podium over to our splendiferous director of the National High School Ethics Bowl, my new and extremely valued colleague at the Parr Center, Alex Richardson, who has also put this event together in addition to running the whole show. Alex, thank you, and take it away.
Great, thanks, Sarah. I'd first like to echo everything you've just said in welcoming you, of course, to the first ever virtual Ethics Bowl Summit. My name, as Sarah mentioned, is Alex Richardson. I'm the director of the National High School Ethics Bowl. As Sarah also mentioned, this isn't quite the end of our season that we had planned, but nonetheless, I'm so excited to be here with you this evening and to celebrate this fantastic community and its accomplishments. It's a continual source of excitement and of inspiration for me to see all of the folks involved in this activity and all of their diversity committed, even now, and perhaps especially now, to digging in, huddling up, and thinking really hard together about tough moral issues. So we have a great program of speakers for the evening, all of whom, as Dr. Stroud mentioned, are involved with the NHSEB at various levels and in various ways. I too look forward to hearing about each of their experiences with the Ethics Bowl and hearing what it's meant to them, both this season and more generally over time. We would also be thrilled to hear of your experience if you're joining us via live stream with this year's NHSEB programming. So I encourage you to share your reflections, photos, retrospectives, whatever, on social media using the hashtag we would have used at this year's Nationals, NHSEB20. Before I turn things over to our speakers, I want to say a little bit about where the NHSEB program is from my perspective at HQ and how it has grown and developed over the course of this season. So you may know a little about the history of our program. We have relatively humble beginnings. We began in 2012 as a product of a collaboration between the Parr Center and the Squire Family Foundation. In that first year, we served just over 1,000 students from 11 states. Today, our map and our community look a little bit different. We have 40 regionals now across the United States in 31 unique states. That number is comprised of around 450 teams of students from over 300 schools, both public and private, with some homeschool teams joining us as well. All told, we estimate that as of this point in the year, over 3,000 students will have participated in the National High School Ethics Bowl this season. Now, there's also a lot of this growth that has been quite recent. As of this year only, we've added 5 new regionals, which I think may be a record. I've highlighted them here. We'll hear from at least a couple of folks who have been directly involved with organizing those in a few minutes. We've also grown a little bit internationally. The NHSEB, or at least affiliation with the NHSEB, has joined a new continent this year with our sort of inaugural outreach programming in China. So early in the spring, in late January and early February, amidst the coronavirus outbreak in China too, a group of students and teachers based at China Normal University in Shanghai founded the Shanghai Interscholastic Ethics Bowl, which now I'm told serves 3 neighboring provinces and over 20 schools. So it's been a really banner year for us in terms of growth. And it's been great to see this community expand at sort of all of its themes. This is a photo of my team and I and some students engaging with about 100 Chinese high school students who, regardless of language and cultural barriers, were able to carry on a fantastic series of discussions of our cases with some of our staff. There are also a lot of people who I should thank and recognize as well for expanding our community in really meaningful ways. So you'll hear from Kyle Robertson in a few minutes, who is the managing director at the Center for Public Philosophy at UC Santa Cruz. Kyle has done more than most to expand our communities, both in terms of hosting a Spanish-speaking invitational every year and running, to my knowledge, the first ethics bowl inside a United States prison. We've also seen a lot of other interesting programs that have changed up our community this year, and I think maybe last year was a pilot, but we've seen for the first time outcroppings of middle school, high school ethics, or not middle school, high school, but middle school ethics bowls, right? We're particularly interested in an event hosted just this year, which I think was over 10 schools at the Kent Place School, partnering with the Squire Family Foundation to bring our programming to children who are even younger. A lot of our focus this year, in addition to our growth, has been on thinking about the kinds of things and the kinds of resources we're putting out to our community. One of the things you've likely noticed this year is that those things are starting to look a little bit different and hopefully a little more friendly. So we've updated and clarified our official rules documents, our guidelines, the case sets that as Sarah, clearly indicated, we spend a lot of our time and energy on at the PAR Center. And of course, our sort of promotional materials and our user experience for our students. We're trying to move online, even pre-COVID, in ways that we haven't before. We've tried to update our websites and our sort of general experience online in ways that make it more user-friendly than perhaps it has been in the past. And we've tried to meet our students where they are this year with an expanded slate of online programming. And then came COVID-19. As you know, and as is likely the reason you're all here, we had to cancel the 2020 National High School Ethics Bowl due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Our community has been hard at work, both internally here at HQ and externally. There are a lot of people who are doing a lot of work to reimagine and rethink how Ethics Bowl can exist in a time of pandemic. The most obvious sort of straightforward thing we've seen this year is the piloting of the NHSEB online program, which many of the people participating in this call will likely have already seen and participated in. We partnered with a couple of new institutions. We partnered with VoiceThread out of Durham, North Carolina, to provide an asynchronous forum for our students to discuss cases. And we, of course, like everyone else in America, have made extensive use of the Zoom platform to promote weekly sort of huddle discussions amongst our students with NHSEB staff and stakeholders. We've been really encouraged by the kind of involvement we've seen there. And that's only what we've done at HQ. I've heard plenty of stories and seen plenty of emails about programming that individual regionals and in some cases individual students are taking on. So I think in Oregon, students produced a series of podcasts taking apart the Nationals cases. In Michigan, there's been a continual schedule of programming and symposia and discussions online based on the Nationals case set. So we've been really thrilled with the way that our community has so far met this moment. You'll likely see our user experience online reflecting the change to all of us living online these days. And I want to say a little bit about what you'll continue to see in the coming year. So our team's very hard at work reimagining our program for what will likely be a somewhat strange future for all of us in terms of rethinking our platforms and how we can deliver them to you, both online and via an app, which we're exploring the design of. We're going to continue rolling out updated looks and feels for our materials, and we're going to explore some new media for our materials. We're working on building a centralized video library of interactive content that engage our students and our other stakeholders on terms that are familiar and which meet the moment. We've partnered also with a company based at Harvard University called Thinker Analytics to bring argument mapping in a collaborative online sense to the process of discussing NHSEB cases. And finally, we're thinking carefully about how we can integrate NHSEB into our communities and into their classrooms once things do return to any semblance of normalcy. A big shout out, of course, to the incoming outreach director at the PAR Center for Ethics, Michael Vasquez, who's been already a sort of formidable force on seeing this project begun and developed. Thanks, Michael. So that's what I have in the way of just highlighting a few of the things that have gone on this year. I now want to sort of turn to our speakers so that we can hear, perhaps in a more sort of direct and first personal way, what's been going on this year and what kinds of things we should be excited and informed about. So I'm going to first turn things over to a 2-for-1 deal we got, a coach and student combination from Ringling High School in Oklahoma. So please welcome Ms. Lauren Wade and Ms. Kelly Howard.
Okay. Hi from Ringling, Oklahoma. Lauren and I are excited to share our perspectives on the Ethics Bowl. This past February was the second year that our school participated in the Ethics Bowl competition, and these experiences have given my students the opportunities to explore their individual impact through civil discourse. Listening to different perspectives enriches their ability to keep the analysis in their thoughts, but also their compassion and understanding toward others deepens. With the format of a table-to-table discussion and time limits, students learn to prepare their thoughts quickly, to speak with confidence in front of others, to make analogies, to create connections, and to respect the boundaries of protocol while presenting their assertions. The intensity of firing off responses develops their abilities to formulate their feedback while remaining mindful of differences in beliefs. The diverse cases chosen by the National High School Ethics Bowl that the students research are actual issues present in our society. Therefore, as a coach witnessing my students engage to examine as many sides of a case as they can shows so many positives. One of the benefits of participating in the Ethics Bowl is that my students learn that points are valid even if they don't agree with the points. Talk about a way to encourage discussion. Through our practices, they develop a camaraderie with their teammates. This trust and acceptance are essential because their decisions are affected by this dynamic. In our practices, my students take the lead. My second-year kids brought their experiences to teach our new participants. They divide the cases by interest, do some independent research, and bring background knowledge to the practices. Other ways that we prepare are by watching crash course videos over ethical theories, having someone play devil's advocate to get as many viewpoints over a case as possible, and by taking lots of notes. I'll assure you that our practices are definitive, thorough, and fun, and my students don't stop thinking about the relevance of the cases even when they leave practice. Think about this. When students can walk away from an experience with a more empowered approach of thinking, everyone benefits. The longevity of the value of participation is another rewarding aspect for both the students and adults involved in the Ethics Bowl. The content learned from the cases is often revisited and referenced during my class discussions, and that is beyond cool. This year, one of our teams placed third at the Oklahoma Regional Ethics Bowl competition. We were the only public school in the top 3. We are grateful to Colin Schoonover, the co-president of the Oklahoma region, whose encouragement and visits reassure my students the value of their ideas. And we appreciate the Parr Center for Ethics for their commitment to inspire students. And Laren, who approaches every subject with analytical compassion, will share her experiences. Thank you.
Hi. Being a part of the Ethics Bowl for the last couple of years has helped me gain many insights and skills, like learning how to speak well in public, effectively argue, and remember that the world holds many views besides my own. At my first Ethics Bowl practice, I was super nervous to speak and spontaneously put my thoughts into words. I remember being stressed and stopping in the middle of sentences because I lost my train of thought or allowed myself to become intimidated. But as we continued practicing, I became more confident in myself and improved my speaking skills. Now, public speaking is not terrifying because the Ethics Bowl helped me learn how to develop this skill. The Ethics Bowl has also helped me broaden my horizons, showing me that the world is larger than my small town, and I can connect with people from all kinds of places. From my participation, I've also learned that differing opinions are not necessarily wrong. They're just different. Before becoming a part of the Ethics Bowl, I didn't realize the value of being aware of and accepting the views of others. After my participation, I learned that the world is becoming more globalized every year, and accepting differing opinions and being aware of what's happening in the world will become even more important as I go forward. Plus, the civil discourse and competition has helped me learn how to disagree with grace. Disagreements are solved more peacefully and easily with respect and thoughtfulness to others, and this knowledge will serve me well with friends, family, and even strangers. My team won third place in Oklahoma's competition this year, and we were honored to receive this award. The environment of this competition was positive and professional, and since professionalism is essential in any job, being exposed to this behavior early is a blessing. The event also gave opportunities to meet new and interesting people, an opportunity I will take advantage of when I'm on the Ethics Bowl team at Oklahoma State University. The program is too amazing not to participate as often as possible. Thank you to the Seed Foundation, Masonic Lodge, and National High School Ethics Bowl for the opportunity to participate in such a rewarding and enlightening program, and for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kelly and Laren. Great. Awesome. It's great to hear from students. It's great to hear from coaches. Next up, we'll have Dustin Webster, who is the inaugural director, I should say, of the Philadelphia High School Ethics Bowl. So Dustin, I'm going to spotlight you here and take it away.
Thanks, Alex. And hello, everyone. My name is Dustin. I'm a graduate student at the University of Pennsylvania, and I was part of the group that founded the inaugural Philadelphia Regional High School Ethics Bowl this year. I've been involved with the Ethics Bowl for quite a few years now, but it was really exciting to be part of the, organizing a new competition and bringing the Ethics Bowl to a whole new group of students as it continues to grow and really open up that opportunity for more and more high schools and more students, especially here in the city of Philadelphia, to be able to participate. One thing that always stands out about the Ethics Bowl, and I'm sure you all share this experience, is just how much everybody really loves it. All of the students that participated in the Philadelphia Ethics Bowl were participating for their first time, and the vast majority of our volunteers who served as coaches, and especially our judges and moderators, were also participating for the first time. And it's such a memorable experience, and I can't tell you how many students and volunteers approached me afterwards and just expressed how much they love the Ethics Bowl and how excited they are to continue participating. And I think, again, we have probably a lot of us share that similar experience where once somebody does it once, they know how great of an event that it really is, and they're hooked. And that was true starting a new bowl across the university as well. We received a lot of support from the University of Pennsylvania, and schools and divisions from across the university were very excited to be a part and support this event that really focuses on collaborative dialogue as opposed to kind of adversarial argument. And so, because all of our students were new to the Ethics Bowl, it was a unique experience this year. And I wanted to share a brief anecdote that found really uplifting and, kind of, I guess, funny really as well. But we did the Spirit of the Ethics Bowl award, as most Ethics Bowls do, which is where teams will vote for which other team that they competed against that they thought best embodied the spirit of the Ethics Bowl. And so we had all the teams vote, we collected the votes, and once we tallied the vote, we realized that we had a perfect tie. Every team had voted for one other team, and thus every team had received one vote for the best embodiment of the spirits of the Ethics Bowl award. So luckily we had asked the judges to vote as well in the event that we had a tiebreaker. And when we went to the judges' votes, we also had a tie, but this time it was only a two-way tie, which was more manageable. And at that point, we decided that both teams were certainly deserving of the Spirit of the Ethics Bowl award. But I just thought that it was really great that all of these students participating in this event for the first time did so well to really embrace what the Ethics Bowl was about. And they enjoyed interacting with each other. And I think most of them really didn't see it so much as a competition, but as a real chance to engage across these really interesting cases and ethical dilemmas that are presented in the bowl. And it showed me how great the mission of the Ethics Bowl was and how important it is to embrace it. So I'm very excited to be a part of organizing an Ethics Bowl here in Philadelphia that hopefully will be around for many years to come. And thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dustin. Next up, we'll hear from another student, Ms. Camille Wong, who was a competitor for St. Petersburg High School and was also the winner this year of our student case competition. So Camille, please take it away.
Hi, so I'm Camille. I'm a graduating senior from St. Pete High. Just to give a little bit of background with my experience with Ethics Bowl, I've been a competitor for the past 4 years. And so I was the captain of my school's team for my junior and senior year. We were able to make it to nationals in my junior year, and gratefully we had the help of our coaches, and with teammates, we placed third in the nation. And so for me, I think ethics bowl is something that's really personal from a competitor perspective, as well as someone who won the case competition. I think a lot of people touched on this already. The idea of being able to work with teammates, be able to communicate and really gain a lot of leadership and communication skills is something that's really important with Ethics Bowl. As someone who also competed in debate, I know that there are very stark differences. With debate, there is a very obvious clash, but the thing that's really special about Ethics Bowl is that clash isn't necessary in order to be successful in a round. I think productive discussion is something that is ultimately a lot more useful in the real world, and that's something that Ethics Bowl really highlights. On a more personal level, Ethics Bowl means a lot to me. I often say that my favorite memory from high school was going to nationals with my teammates, just being able to bond with my teammates and like have those discussions. Something that I really miss about Ethics Bowl is just having those aha moments where we'd spend a really, really long time discussing a case, and the point where we found a stance that we really felt like considered all the different perspectives. I think it's really unique to Ethics Bowl, and something that's just like really fun to be able to experience with your peers. And I think outside of the Ethics Bowl world, I've been able to gain a lot from it. I don't know if other students have the same experience, but I know that I have this experience, especially when I talk to my teammates, where I kind of try and view things in the real world through like an Ethics Bowl lens, where we try and approach it with more. I think Laren said it was analytical compassion. I think that's a good description for it. But yeah, I find that to be a really. I think that's a really good skill to take out of Ethics Bowl. For the future, I'm also going to college, so I'll be going to Stanford in the fall, and hopefully I get to continue this. I'm also planning on competing in Ethics Bowl in college, and yeah, I think that Ethics Bowl has meant a lot to me personally and intellectually. I do think it was an extracurricular that I was involved in very heavily throughout high school. It was one of my most time-consuming extracurriculars, and as a result, I think I derived a lot from it. And just to touch on the case competition, I think being able to view cases through a specific lens also allows you, and looking at real world situations through a specific lens also gave me the ability to look at things like, so I wrote my case about the Korean pop industrial complex, but being able to look at things like that and then write something about it in like an ethical, analytical way is a skill that I developed from Ethics Bowl. So yeah, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for the fact that so many people organized this event and the things that I was able to gain from it. So yeah.
Great, great. Thank you, Camille. Next, we'll turn to a pair of coaches from Hilliard-Davidson High School in Ohio. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Pam Antos and Mary Guerrera.
Hi, folks. I'm Pam Antos, and Mary and I coach with Mary Guerrera. We're going to kind of share this spot. And together we coach Ethics Bowl teams from 3 different Hilliard high schools, Hilliard-Bradley, Hilliard-Davidson, and Hilliard-Darby at our Innovative Learning Center in Hilliard, Ohio, which is in Central Ohio. And when I think of Ethics Bowl, and I'm going to repeat some of what people have already said, but I promise we thought about this beforehand too. I just feel like we're living in this time that now more than ever really demands that we hone our abilities to think critically, to create collaborative solutions, and to really talk and maybe most importantly, listen to each other, especially when we don't agree. And unfortunately, we just don't get that modeled for us very well all too often in public discourse. What I find most rewarding about coaching Ethics Bowl is getting the chance to see our teams grow in their ability to analyze complex cases, to think through them together, while exploring and considering multiple perspectives on real-world issues. Mary and I are both English instructors, and we found that coaching Ethics Bowl has also made us better teachers. It's helped us figure out how to scaffold student skills, how to help them create effective and meaningful arguments. We're still relatively new to Ethics Bowl. We formed our first teams in the fall of 2017 after incorporating the cases into a critical thinking seminar that we were teaching. And our students enjoyed that project so much that we thought we just had to give it a shot. And we just haven't looked back. Our teams meet once a week after school. And as many of you, I'm sure, our students are really busy people. They juggle multiple after school commitments, but they set time aside each week to meet, to come together, to grapple with these challenging scenarios, even when they're not getting grades or credit for doing so. And every week we walk away from those meetings and we look at each other and we say, this gives us hope for the future. One of the most satisfying parts of coaching Ethics Bowl is watching each team figure out its process. Our Davidson team this past year, which was made up of Emmy, I'm gonna give them a shout out, Emmy Regenbogen, Avery Londo, Meg Miller, Caitlin Remick, and Kate DeSanti. We've worked with them now for 2 years, and that's just been especially rewarding to see them hone their process. Last place, and they had enough at the Ohio Regional to qualify for DePauw University's Middle Institute Summer Invitation. And when we got there, we faced really stiff competition. Many of the teams had been nationals, had worked together, sometimes for a year or more, and we didn't win a round in those 2 days. And, you know, to be clear, we always say this is not about winning or losing. Just participating makes everyone a winner. But let's be honest, losing round after round for 2 days straight, it is hard sometimes. And so that competition we faced was really challenging. But even though we didn't win a round, each time we got a little bit better with each case. And we learned invaluable lessons about how to better organize the presentations and how to really compete as a team.
So when our Davidson team returned to Ethics Bowl in the fall, they came back just ready to go. They had a highly developed approach to analyzing cases and working through differing perspectives. In addition to our weekly team meetings, they met on their own, going above and beyond in the amount of time they spent working together to prepare for the Ohio Regional competition this past January. That hard work paid off when they won both the Ohio Regional and then their virtual playoff round as well, which qualified them for the national contest. We were really disappointed, obviously, that they didn't get to come to nationals this year to participate, but they were just thrilled to have gone from, you know, not winning at all to placing so well in these further competitions. But beyond the wins and losses, we have really appreciated the part of Ethics Bowl that emphasizes productive, collaborative dialogue. And this has been said before, but I really just think it's worth highlighting how Ethics Bowl differs importantly from debate in that it encourages students to help each other work through ideas and positions, even if they're on different teams. And I think that's really unique in any sort of competition. In my opinion, one of the best parts of being a coach is witnessing when this happens spontaneously and organically during rounds. One team will suggest an idea that helps the other team develop their position, and then that team takes the idea and runs with it. And unlike most public speaking based activities, Ethics Bowl truly has something for everyone. Students who are less comfortable speaking can still play important roles by researching, conferring with their teammates. And since not everyone has to speak on the team during a round, there's freedom for the team to divide roles in ways that honor everyone's preferred mode of participation. And yet we've also seen kids who are quieter grow in confidence and find their voices. As Pam mentioned, we're experiencing a time in our world when it's crucial that we don't see each other's viewpoints as necessarily adversarial. We can and should work together to arrive at new understandings, and Ethics Bowl offers a welcoming environment in which to do so. And finally, I also love that Ethics Bowl encourages the idea that there isn't one easy right answer. In fact, if teams arrive at what they feel is a concrete solution to a case question, chances are they haven't thought critically enough about that question at hand. Instead of rewarding the teams that choose a position and defend it at any cost, Ethics Bowl honors teams that are willing to consider how to adapt and amend their arguments according to the opposing teams or even the judge's commentary and questions. And again, I feel this mirrors how people should be conducting dialogue in their own lives in order to encourage the evolution of ideas.
And overall, we just want to say that we're so incredibly grateful for the chance to participate in this amazing co-curricular activity. We both, again, say on multiple occasions that this activity and working with students in this capacity is hands down one of the most rewarding parts of our teaching careers. And we just can't wait to see it continue to develop and grow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Pam and Mary. Next, we'll turn to one more student. So I'm going to introduce you to Will Ahrens, who was a member of our winning team from this year's North Carolina High School Ethics Bowl. Will, take it away.
So, hey everyone, I'm Will, and like Camille, I'm also a graduating senior. I'm from Cary Academy, which is a school about 20 minutes away from UNC, where our regional and the national competition is held. And yeah, hopefully I'll be attending college in the fall, whether that's virtually or online is still sort of up in the air. But yeah, just a bit of background. I've participated in Ethics Bowl for 2 years, so both my junior and senior year. And before then, we didn't really have a team. I think maybe 5 or 6 years in the past, our school did participate, but since then it had fizzled out. So it was a really new experience for me and everyone else that was on my team. And I guess what initially drew me to the activity was really the ensemble aspect. So I'm someone who's always been pretty interested in philosophy, but before Ethics Bowl, I think all the different ways that I had related to the discipline were usually pretty insular, whether that was reading books on my own or maybe arguing individually with a friend or a teacher. But I always kind of thought of philosophy as something that was insular and to think about maybe for fun. And also, like Camille and like other people have mentioned, I was involved in debate throughout my 4 years. And the event that I did was Lincoln Douglas, which is sort of it's a one-on-one style. And I really enjoyed that, and I still really enjoy that, but it could definitely sometimes be isolating. And that's different from Ethics Bowl, which I think was immediately a different experience for me for a few different reasons. So I guess I would kind of compare it to how in music, for example, solo playing and chamber ensemble playing always just feel profoundly different. Like the level of listening and the empathy of the listening required when playing with a lot of different musicians in a chamber music group is always just exponentially more precise. And that reminds me a lot of my experience with Ethics Bowl. When transitioning from debate, it was suddenly no longer always about my thoughts alone, but instead molding my ideas into sort of a broader team schema. And I also think that the breadth of learning was always just so much more than something I ever received through debate, because we just discussed so many different issues like kind of in a row. It was really cool, like the different avenues and aspects of philosophy that it explored. And it was just really amazing to discover such a vibrant community that was literally 25 minutes away from my house that I'd never heard of before junior year. And just people have already touched on this, but one thing that I really appreciate about Ethics Bowl that really showed me that something I didn't know was possible was sort of the value of non-hostile contestation of ideas. And in Ethics Bowl, I was really struck by how there was really not as much affective or performative dismissal of people's ideas, but yet it didn't sacrifice the directness with which the actual ideas were contested, which is something that I really have loved about debate. And before Ethics Bowl, I thought that, animosity or kind of being toxic was necessarily a byproduct of some deep discussion, and that if you wanted to be more civil, you'd have to somehow sacrifice the discussion by watering down or resulting to some both-sidism. But Ethics Bowl showed me that there is a happy medium that's really possible, and it's possible to be vulnerable, uncertain, but also very direct and rigorous. And I also really appreciated, especially the sense of epistemic modesty. You're always rewarded for being uncertain about different ideas rather than being punished or viewed as weak for making concessions, which is just something I really thought was really important and valuable. And I just thought that my entire experience was super fun. I got to make friends with a lot of people from different grades and different backgrounds. And a lot of the cases were different in nature from different types of questions that I'd considered before in my reading or in debate. And there was one, for example, last year that was about whether someone should read their sister's diary or not. And like, that seems like something that's like sort of petty, funny drama, but it was really cool to see how something like so commonplace could actually relate to a lot of different foundational questions that I think people associate with ethics. And it's kind of that association between ethics and everyday life that has continued to make me inspired by the activity. And I think one example is how this year there was one case about the burning of the Notre Dame and the ethical dilemmas that are associated with sort of the huge influx of charitable donations that a lot of companies and individuals were suddenly putting towards repairing the building. And I thought that was really interesting when we debated it on the stage, but then afterwards I stopped thinking about it. But it was always kind of in the back of my mind. And at the end of this year, I ended up doing my senior capstone research project about effective altruism and philanthropy and sort of what we owe to each other in that sense. And the ethics bowl case that we debated this year was the starting point for that. And so that was just a really cool way that it's, as someone who didn't necessarily devote all my extracurricular time, it was still able to have such an impact on, even how I live my life, how I think about my role in society. And I think just a few final thoughts is I just think it's, as people already mentioned, it's really crucial to be able to have these types of conversations right now. And I think there are a lot of ways that ethics can and should influence the types of democratic deliberation that are going to be needed. And, for example, COVID-19 and the pandemic is full of ethical dilemmas, like how we allocate respirators, all these other things that are not unlike those that you often find contained in ethics school cases. And also, obviously, there are a lot of difficult conversations that need to be continued to be having right now about anti-Blackness, white supremacy, and, the role of individuals and organizations in remediating systemic racism. And I think programs like Ethics Bowl that provide a forum for conversations can almost form a template of what democratic participation should look like. Because I think too often people view ethical and political discussions as some type of personal affront, which is really not only unfortunate, but also destructive. And I think it's great that programs are directly engaging like kids in these types of conversations. And that's really more valuable than I can probably understand as a high schooler. And, even having these discussions at such a young age is super important because, as someone already mentioned, there isn't exactly that type of modeling in our democracy right now. And, having civil dialogue is something that people need to go back and learn as adults. And if that's a skill that's instead becomes second nature, people can spend more time taking material actions towards justice and progress and less time just establishing basic comfort with even broaching these issues. So, okay, this ended up being a lot longer than I expected, but I guess those are really my thoughts about Ethics Bowl. I really enjoyed all time participating, and it became a really important part of my high school experience and what I'm really taking away as I go on to college. So I just want to thank the National High School Ethics Bowl and just all the people who spend all the time and energy to giving such a fun and I think crucial opportunity to students. And also to my teammates and my coaches, if y'all are watching. It was super fun this year. Thanks for putting up with me, and I can't wait to see how our team continues to grow in the future. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone. I'm really looking forward to finding opportunities to engage and give back to Ethics Bowl in the future. Yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you, Will. And last but certainly not least, we'll turn to Kyle Robertson, who is the director of the Northern California High School Ethics Bowl and a member of my absolutely indispensable as director NHSEB Advisory Board. Kyle, take it away.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you, Will, for basically stealing my thunder. I just want to say part of my point, one of the things I wanted to talk about is how much I miss the opportunity of going to Chapel Hill and listening to you all. And so thank you for helping me listen to what your perspective on what this means. I think one of the things as an organizer of Ethics Bowl at every level, so to speak, every level that exists as far as I know, from middle school through incarcerated students, adults, and even college faculty. So that was an interesting one I can tell you about off the call sometime. It's an idea of reframing argument as a practice of listening as if you might actually learn something new. It's often a phrase I use when describing Ethics Bowl as distinct from other debate practices or distinct from the way we argue in our public culture, right? What you'd see on TV, what you'd see in this legislature. Listening as if you might actually change your mind And so I appreciated hearing in your words, Will, epistemic modesty, epistemic humility. It's exactly the kind of thing that I'm trying to inculcate in students by running these sorts of programs. And I love it that you got that message. I wanted to put it in one slightly different framing, but really thinking about the same sort of thing. And I want to speak to the students in particular about those of you graduating and what you might take away from this sort of experience. I think argument as it's modeled in Ethics Bowl really could be seen as an act of care. So reframing argument as opposed to a combat. And I think it's an act of self-care and an act of care for others. So one of the things I hope you'll experience when you go to college is the sort of, or if you go to college, I suppose, the ability to expose your own beliefs, right? The backgrounds you grew up with, the religious stories and narratives you have, to engage with others, to sort of share yourself in a way that allows you to grow, right? And make decisions about whether you really want to be that way moving forward. And I think the modes of engagement you learned in Ethics Bowl can really be a method of self-care, right? Giving you the confidence to expose your own beliefs, to critique and maybe change them. You know, in my own experience of college, I changed a lot of my beliefs from being a kid who grew up in Silicon Valley. But I also think it's an act of care for others. And I wanted to tell you all from the heart of a judge, you deeply impact the judges you argue in front of. And if you can engage with people in your lives in the spirit of Ethics Bowl, you will have a deep impact on them. It's a great act of caring to sort of entertain other people's beliefs and hopes and viewpoints with charity and sort of affection and with actually trying to figure out what they think. That's the spirit in which Alex already referenced this, but here's the actual brochure from our Ethics Bowl inside San Quentin State Prison. Here's a group of men that are really worth listening to, right? They're really worth engaging with. The college teams in Northern California that are lucky enough to go inside and talk to them really learn a tremendous amount from them, not just about the experience of being Black men in America or being an incarcerated person, but about life in general, right? We ask them Ethics Bowl cases about political questions we all have to grapple with. And that act of listening with an open mind, right? Being willing to change your mind, I hope you can take with you into the rest of life. I hope you can take it with you. And I'm so overjoyed that many of you have already talked about going to Intercollegiate Ethics Bowl. And so I hope I'll see you there. In addition to helping to organize this, I'm on the API Ethics Bowl Council and I help organize the College Bowl. So if you're in Northern California or you make it to Nationals, please come say hi to me. It's exciting every year that more and more high school ethics bowlers end up at the college level. So thank you so much. And Black Lives Matter.
Thanks, Kyle. All right. Well, thanks to everybody for offering like what I think is a really interesting and varied, it's somewhat overlapping, interestingly, right? Group of perspectives on the activity that we all sort of know and love. So to close out our program, I just want to point to and recognize the teams who have advanced and the teams who would have participated in nationals, as well as the teams who won their regional. So let me share my screen. So I'm just going to quickly say a few things about what our national field would have looked like. It's one of the most diverse that we ever would have had in history. Private schools, public schools, under-resourced schools, wealthy schools, schools from rural areas, schools from urban areas, people, students, and coaches from all walks of life. And that's something that we really value and something that, as many of you already mentioned, like getting together and having the kinds of conversations that we do with as varied and as diverse a group of people as we do is not an opportunity that arises with every activity, particularly every competitive activity. So with that said, I just want to quickly recognize the 24 schools who made it through the gauntlet, so to speak. So these schools would have won their regional competition, and in many cases, a virtual playoff match as well. So they are as follows: Ames High School from Iowa, Ann Arbor Green Hills High School from Michigan, Atlantic Community High School from Florida, Cary Academy from North Carolina, Conestoga High School from Pennsylvania, Cypress Charter School from California, Decatur High School from Georgia, Dove Science Academy from Oklahoma, Hilliard-Davidson High School from Ohio, Lincoln High School from Oregon, the Lincoln School from Rhode Island. That would have presented an interesting scheduling dilemma. Little Rock Central High School from Arkansas, Marion High School from Illinois, Medford High School from Massachusetts, Peak to Peak High School from Colorado, Rockbridge High School from Missouri, the School Without Walls from the District of Columbia, St. Andrew's Sewanee School from Tennessee, Stanton College Prep High School, also from Florida, Stony Brook School, the Stony Brook School from New York, the Hackley School, also from New York, the Masterman School from Pennsylvania, Walter Payton High School from Illinois, and Westwood High School from Texas. So those are the schools who made it farther than any others and who would have represented their respective states and regions at this year's National High School Ethics Bowl. So we thank all the students, all the coaches, and all the organizers who were involved in getting those students this far and getting those students, again, in a room, doing the hard work of thinking together about issues that really matter. This list is a little longer. As I said earlier, we have a large number of regionals, so I won't read every single one of these, but suffice it to know, or suffice it to say, that behind each of these 40 school names are huge teams and groups of people who make it happen, right? So you've heard from coaches, you've heard from students, you've heard from organizers. Hundreds of people put in thousands of hours to make these events happen. So I thank all of those people. I thank everyone who's been involved. I thank the coaches for the time and care and attentiveness that you show your students. And I thank the students for, again, just showing up and doing something that's in many ways kind of quietly radical and very difficult. So as always, congratulations to all of our students for your hard-fought victories, in some cases your hard-fought losses, and engaging in the project together. We're really proud of your accomplishments. We're really excited, and we hope to see you in next year's NHSEB event. Finally, I just want to say another quick thanks for a few people and a few institutions who are absolutely instrumental in putting on this fantastic and large and varied and diverse program. So of course, my team at the Parr Center for Ethics, who do just incredible work on the daily, my advisory board, and all NHSEB regional organizers who, again, put up thousands of hours yearly to make these events happen and to ensure that the event their events are not only sort of smooth and well-run administratively, but deeply, as you've heard, meaningful for students and for coaches. I also should thank all of the financial supporters of the National High School Ethics Bowl and of individual regionals. So a few big names here are the Keenan Charitable Trust, the Mark Sanders Foundation, the A.J. Fletcher Foundation, UNC Office of Undergraduate Admissions, and of course, the Parr Center for Ethics and the UNC Philosophy Department. Otherwise, that's about all I have for the evening. I want to thank all of our speakers for joining us and sharing what you've heard is a sort of overlapping, if varied, set of experiences with our events. We really value your participation, and we are really excited that you're with us. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everyone. It's been so inspiring to hear from all of you. And can I just ask everyone to give it up for Alex and the NHSEB team before we leave. Alex, you do an amazing job running this show, shepherding and leading this program. And I hope you've been able to enjoy hearing from this amazing group of people about what it means to them. So thank you, everyone, for inspiring us. And thank you, Alex, for putting this and everything together.